I was crawling on my hands and knees through the wreckage of what used to be our forward position. My ears were ringing from the blast. My left arm was bleeding somewhere. I could feel the warmth of it, but couldn't find the wound. The Vreth psychic pulse bomb had gone off 60 meters to my right, and the shockwave had thrown me into a pile of broken equipment like I was made of paper. I had been in 31 battles across 9 star systems. I thought I knew what destruction looked like. Ketharan 4 showed me I was wrong. The moon's surface was cracked open in places, venting yellow gas from below. Half our unit was down. I could hear Grek somewhere behind me, shouting coordinates into his comm, his 4 arms probably doing the work of 8 as he tried to hold the line together. Good. If Grex was shouting, we still had a line to hold. I kept moving forward, because that is what medics do. We move toward the thing everyone else moves away from. That was when I saw the commander. Serial was slumped against a shattered section of hull plating, her tall frame folded at an angle that made my stomach drop. Even collapsed, she looked powerful. Nearly 2.5 meters of reinforced combat armor, the deep blue exoplating of the Aethani warrior caste, with the 6-pointed rank insignia burned into her chest piece. She had her weapon in her hand even now. Of course she did. I reached her in 12 seconds. I know because I counted. It is a habit I developed early in my career, counting the seconds it takes to reach a fallen soldier. Because in this work, seconds are the entire story. Commander. I dropped beside her and pressed 2 fingers to the side of her neck, just below where her atmospheric mask sealed against the armor. Commander, talk to me. Corvain, her voice came through the helmet comm, steady and unhurried, the way her voice always was. If Serial was bothered by the fact that she was sitting in a war zone with a compromised suit, she did not show it in her tone. Leave. The extraction window closes in 11 minutes. Then we have 11 minutes, I said, already pulling my scanner out. The readings came back immediately, and they were not good. Internal bleeding in 2 places, 1 lung significantly damaged. Her neural shunt, the implant that let aethani interface with their armor systems, was showing critical failure. And the suit itself, her magnificent, centuries-old aethani combat suit, had a breach across the chest plate that was letting in the moon's toxic atmosphere at a slow but certain rate. By my best estimate, she had 4 minutes. Maybe 5 if she stayed still and breathed shallow. Your suit is compromised, I told her. You're bleeding internally. I need to work fast. It is not necessary, Sergeant. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. I heard something that might have been a short exhale through the comm. With aethani, it was always hard to tell. They were not known for expressing themselves. In 3 years of fighting alongside Serial, I had seen her plan brilliant tactical operations, make decisions that saved entire battalions, and stand in the middle of enemy fire without flinching. I had never once seen her laugh, or cry, or show any of the ordinary human reactions to the extraordinary things we experienced together. None of the aethani did. They were the oldest spacefaring civilization in the known galaxy. They had encountered the Vreth Dominion before humans had invented the wheel. They had fought wars that lasted longer than most species had existed. The galaxy respected them, feared them, and quietly found them unknowable. Their armor, their masks, their cool, precise voices, their refusal to be read. I respected them too, but right now, I just needed her to hold on. I have to access your subdermal injector port, I said. It's the only way to get the compound directly into your system fast enough. It's located just below your jawline. I paused. I have to remove your mask, Commander. The silence that followed was only about 4 seconds long, but in those 4 seconds, the entire history of the aethani people seemed to press down on the moment. Every species in the coalition knew the rule. Aethani did not remove their masks. Not in front of outsiders. Not on alien worlds. Not under any circumstances. It was law. It was culture. It was the one absolute that every diplomatic briefing, every military protocol, every interspecies sensitivity training included without exception. No outsider had ever seen an aethani face. Yes, she said quietly. Do it. My hands were already moving. The mask's external release was a simple 4-point mechanism once you knew where to look, and I had spent many long hours studying aethani suit schematics out of professional habit. I pressed the 4 points in sequence. There was a soft depressurization sound, and then I removed the mask. I do not have good words for what I felt in that moment. I have tried to describe it many times since, to journalists, to Senate committees, to my own journal at 3 in the morning, when sleep would not come. Every time, the words feel smaller than the experience. Her face was soft. That was the first thing I noticed. Not crystalline, not angular, not inhuman. Soft in the way that faces are soft, the slight roundness of a cheek, the way skin moves when someone is in pain and trying not to show it. She had dark eyes, and they were wet. Her mouth was pressed into a thin line of effort, the expression of someone holding themselves together by willpower alone. She looked young. She looked tired. She looked like every soldier I had ever held while they ran out of time. She looked, in every way that mattered, human. I administered the compound without speaking. My hands were steady because I trained them to be steady. But my mind was absolutely not steady. My mind was turning over itself like a ship caught in a gravity well. I started. Not what the galaxy believes us to be, she said. Her voice was different without the mask's filter. Quieter, more real. I kept working. The compound would buy her time, but not enough. The internal damage was too severe for field treatment. I kept one hand on my scanner and one hand on her arm, because when someone is dying, the worst thing in the world is for them to feel alone. And I had learned that lesson so many times, I no longer needed to be taught it. 12,000 years ago, she began, slowly, like each word cost her something. A ship left your world. Before you had a name for the stars, before you knew what was waiting out there. I said nothing, I just listened. They called the project Aethon, a generation ship, Dale. Thousands of people, leaving a world that was becoming unable to support them, heading toward a star they had only seen as a point of light. She paused to breathe. It was not easy breathing. They arrived, they survived, and then they encountered what was already here. The Vreth. I understood without her saying it. The Vreth Dominion had been consuming civilizations for 100,000 years. Soft, emotional, biological species were their preferred targets. Not because they were the strongest enemies, but because they were the easiest ones to break. Our ancestors had to make a choice, Serial continued. Be what they were, and be consumed, or become something the galaxy would fear. Her eyes met mine directly. The exoplating is not biological, Dale. It is manufactured. It has always been manufactured. We begin wearing it as children. The masks were not for atmosphere. They were never for atmosphere. I understood. I understood the full weight of it, and it landed on me like something physical. The exoskeletons, the masks, the cool, unreadable voices processed through helmet comms so no one could hear the ordinary human tones beneath. The refusal to allow any outsider to see their faces. 12,000 years of showing the galaxy a hard, crystalline, emotionless surface, because the galaxy ate soft things alive, and they had decided a very long time ago that they would not be eaten. We were afraid, she said, and she said it simply, without shame, the way you can only say something true when you have very little time left and no energy for anything else. When we first arrived, we were just people. We were afraid, so we built something they would not dare to touch. And Earth? My voice came out rougher than I intended. Did you know we were out here? She looked at me, and she smiled. A real smile. A tired, heartbreaking, entirely human smile. We have been watching over you, she said, for 300 years. 300 years. While Earth developed its first faster-than-light prototypes, the aethani had been quietly redirecting Vreth scouts. While our early colony ships ventured nervously into neighboring systems, aethani warships had been holding a perimeter we never knew existed. While humans looked at the stars and wondered if we were alone, our 12,000-year-old cousins had been standing in the dark between us and the things that would have ended us before we even knew they existed. They wore the mask so we never had to. I held her hand when she died. It was 11 seconds after she finished speaking. I know because I counted. I did not move for a long time after. When Grex found me, the Kaldori lieutenant stopped completely at the edge of the wreckage and stood very still, all four of his hands at his sides. He looked at Serial's face, her real face, soft and still, and he made a sound I had never heard a Kaldori make before. Corvain, he said quietly. What is this? She was human, I said. They're all human. Every one of them. My scanner had recorded everything. Her voice, her words, the genetic markers that matched baseline human DNA with 12,000 years of deliberate, careful modification layered on top, like rings in an ancient tree. It was all there. It was all real. The recording reached the Galactic Coalition Senate in 48 hours. I did not send it. I gave it to our unit's intelligence officer and told him what it contained. And after that, it moved the way important things move. Quickly, and beyond my control. I did not watch the Senate session. I was in a medical bay on the carrier, getting my arm properly treated, and sitting with the specific kind of emptiness you feel after you lose someone you fought beside for 3 years. Some of the other soldiers in my unit came and sat with me, which I appreciated. Nobody said much. There is not much to say. There is just the sitting, and the understanding that the sitting itself is the thing that matters. What happened in the Senate chamber, I learned afterward from the recordings. The Aethani High Council entered the chamber and stood before every representative of every coalition species. They were in their full ceremonial armor. The room was silent in the way rooms are silent when something enormous is about to happen, and everyone can feel it. Then, in unison, they removed their masks. The silence that followed was of a completely different quality than the silence before. Every aethani counselor was undeniably, unmistakably, recognizably human. Varied in the ways humans are varied. Different features, different coloring, the 12,000 years of separate evolution, making them not quite identical to Earth-born humans, but close enough, so achingly close, that several representatives reportedly could not speak for nearly a full minute. The Vreth Dominion received the broadcast because coalition law required all Senate sessions to be transmitted openly. Military analysts later told me that the Vreth Strategic Command would have immediately run the biological data through their species assessment systems. They would have gotten results they had never received before. Because for a century, they had been studying the aethani as a cold, unknowable, possibly non-biological enemy they could not predict. And suddenly, the assessment would have come back with something they absolutely could predict. Human, which meant emotional, which meant loyal to their dead, which meant that if you harmed one of them, all of them would come for you with everything they had, and they would not stop, and they would not calculate a strategic retreat, and they would not be reasoned with. Because that is simply what humans do when you take someone they love. The Vreth fleet that had been massing at the Keth-Oran border turned around without firing a single shot. I buried Serial on Keth-Oran 4, in a patch of ground near the broken hull where she died, on a day when the gas vents were quiet, and the sky was a pale, bruised color that reminded me of early morning back home. I carved her name into a piece of hull plating with my field tool. I wrote it in aethani script first, because she had earned that, and then below it in Earth alphabet because she had earned that too. Serial, Commander, Daughter of Earth. I stood there for a while. The wind moved across the broken ground and made a low sound that was almost like breathing. 6 months later, the Vreth came back. 40,000 ships, the largest fleet they had ever assembled, because they had decided that a species capable of being understood was a species capable of being defeated. They found 2 fleets waiting for them. The aethani on the left flank, unmasked for the first time in 12,000 years, their real faces visible through newly transparent visors. And on the right, every human warship the coalition could put together, flying in formation beside people who were, by every measure that actually counted, our oldest family. I was on one of those ships. In the hours before the engagement, I stood at the observation window and looked out at the aethani fleet, at the lights of their ships moving in perfect coordination, the way they always had, and I thought about a group of frightened people leaving a dying world a very long time ago, choosing to be something hard, so that the people they left behind could afford to be something soft. We won. Of course we won. We have always been at our most dangerous when someone gives us a reason to grieve.